Okay, Mr. Harari. 6 weeks ago, you just mentioned that AlphaGo defeated China's best Go player, Ke Jie. What was your first reaction when you heard this news? From your perspective, is this good or bad news?
Is this good or bad news? It's just a reality that we have to accept, and we have to go forward and think, okay, AI is becoming more intelligent than us. What should we do? What kind of world do we want to create with this?
Everyone is talking about AI. What do you think will happen when AI prevails in the world in the future? What will be the relationship between humans and AI?
That depends on us. Technology is not deterministic. You can create very different kinds of societies with the same technology. So it's the same with AI. Whether AI will serve the interests of a very small minority of people, or whether AI will benefit the vast majority of humankind, is maybe the biggest question today in the world, and it's up to us to answer this question.
But what do you think will be the scariest part of AI if it matures?
The scariest part is that control over human life, the decisions we make, will shift from humans to computers. The most important decisions in life, you will increasingly turn to the AI to make a decision for you.
Mm-hmm. So do you think even if all 7 billion people unite, we humans still cannot defeat AI?
I don't think it's a war between humans and AI. I think it's more kind of a wedding or a marriage. But like in every marriage, the question is who is more powerful among the partners. And when it comes again to humans or AI, I think humans will split into a small elite and the vast majority of the people. And the danger is that AI will empower a small elite while most people will lose all their power. So it's not a question of AI defeating or dominating humans. It's a question of a small number of people dominating everybody.
So let's talk something about the job market. Well, out of all the current human occupations, which will be the first, do you think, will be the first to be replaced by AI?
Occupations that demand just monotonous activities, either physical or mental, and don't need any kind of creativity or flexibility. Because this is the easiest thing to replace with an AI.
But I remember you once said that the likelihood of archaeologists being replaced by AI is very, very low. Why? Is there any standard to determine whether a job would be safe or not?
Well, if you compare, say, an archaeologist to a truck driver, so you need much more creativity to be an archaeologist than to be a truck driver. And the other important factor is that there is not a lot of money to be made from replacing archaeologists by AI. I mean, professions are most likely to be automated if you can save a lot of money by automating them. If you replace all the drivers in the world by AI, you will save enormous amounts of money and you will make billions of yuan or billions of dollars. Now with archaeology, there is not much money in that. So even if you could, it's not very likely. It's not very profitable. You will need to invest so much money developing an AI archaeologist, and what will you get in return? Very little. So I think archaeology is a much safer profession than a truck driver.
Mm-hmm. So you mean that the money or profit is one of the key standards, right?
Yes. Again, I mean, the more money there is in a particular industry, the more incentive there is to automate it.
Mm-hmm. So on a scale from 1 to 10, what's the likelihood of the following jobs I mentioned being replaced by AI? From 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely likely. Please rate one by one.
Okay. I'll just say, I'm not a prophet. I don't know for sure what will happen. I can give an estimate.
Okay, just estimate, just imagine, okay? Thank you. Crop farmers?
Very likely, like, I don't know, 9 or 10.
Okay. Construction workers?
Depending which, but many parts of construction, 8 or 9.
Doctors?
For most doctors, also 8 or 9.
Lawyers?
Again, I have to make a general comment that every such profession, it has different sectors. Like you have lawyers, which need a lot of creativity. They like stand in court and they have to convince the judge and so forth. But many lawyers, they don't do that. They just spend all day making these standard agreements. And it's a very monotonous work without any creativity. So the second kind of lawyer, that you just go, you want to make your will, or you want to make an agreement about selling a house, so you go to a lawyer. This is going to be automated. You won't need humans to do that. But for the creative kinds of lawyers, this will, in the foreseeable future, still remain a job for humans. And it's the same with doctors. If you feel bad, you go to the doctor, you want to have a diagnosis for your illness, this will be automated. This is easy. But if you have a doctor that researches cancer in order to develop a new medicine, this demands a lot of creativity. And I guess even in 30 or 40 years, this will still be a human job.
So how about journalists?
Again, some journalists, they just write, for sports, and they generate very simple articles about a football match or something like this. This is something that even today, AI is beginning to do by itself. But then you have very creative and complicated investigative journalism, that you go and you interview people and you try to uncover some hidden scandal. And this kind of thing will still need humans to do.
So maybe we still have some different occupations. If you think it's hard to tell because there are different kinds, then you can skip. But if you can have one score, give us a score on average, then just please. Okay, the second one is programmers.
Programmers. It's the same thing. Most programmers, they will be automated. But you always have this elite programmers that need a lot of creativity and will be much more difficult to replace.
Taxi drivers.
9 or 10.
Food deliverers.
9 or 10.
Prostitutes.
That's a very interesting question. It's an interesting psychological question. My gut reaction is to say 8 or 9. It's very likely that AI robots will increasingly replace human prostitutes, and this will be a very good thing. But some humans will still want to have a human prostitute because psychologically it's different. Even if the robot is able to have sex much better than any humans, still they will want for psychological reason to have sex with a human, and so you'll still have this very severe problem of human prostitution.
How about teachers?
Most teachers could be replaced by AI, but again, some top of those that develop new subjects and so forth, you will still need humans to do that.
So actors.
Actors, I think there is a very good chance they will be automated.
Mm-hmm. Fashion designers.
I would say 7 or 8.
Okay. Policemen.
I think 8 or 9.
Okay, the last one, soldier.
Again, most soldiers, 8 or 9.
Okay, it looks quite complicated. Well, at the same time, I think there must be many new occupations appearing in the future. Mm-hmm. Could you give us some examples, like what would probably be the most popular new job in the 50 years, maybe?
Nobody has any idea. Mm-hmm. I think this is the big problem, that it's relatively straightforward to tell you what kinds of professions are likely to be automated, because we need what you need to do in order to be a soldier or in order to be a construction worker. But what kind of new jobs will appear, it's beyond our ability at present to foresee, which is also why we have this crisis in education, that we don't know what to teach children in schools or in colleges. And I think anybody who tells you that he or she knows what will be the most popular profession in 50 years, they are fooling you, or maybe they are also fooling yourself. We just have no idea what the job market would look like in 50 years.
But no matter what will happen, it seems that the AI, the improvement of AI will fundamentally change the job market and the knowledge requirements. So the question is, what courses do our children need to learn most?
Our children need to learn, above all else, how to retain their mental flexibility and how to retain their mental balance. Because the only thing we know for certain about the future is that it will be very different from the present, and the pace of change will only accelerate. So they will have to face constant changes in their life. They will constantly have to learn new things, and change creates a lot of stress, especially beyond a certain age. When you're 15 years old, you like change. When you're 50, you don't like change. It's creates a lot of stress. So the most important is how to retain your mental flexibility to keep changing throughout your life, and how to retain your mental balance, not to be overwhelmed by all these changes and all the stress it involves.
Mm-hmm. So how about all of us who already have a career? What can we do? I was so concerned about that, after reading your book.
It's a very big problem. Again, it depends on your age. But if, say, let's say you're 30 or 40 and you have a good career, in many cases you should be worried. Because even though you have a good career now, in 10 or 20 years, maybe this profession is being automated. And to learn a new profession at 50 or 60, this is going to be very, very difficult.
It sounds very interesting, but I'm thinking that, if AI can solve most problems, so will we still need our bodies and brains? Compared with AI, what do you think is the human's major advantage?
Well, it depends on whose perspective you adopt. If you look at it from the perspective of the big corporations, of the economic system, then yes, most humans may become useless, valueless. You don't need them. But the human being himself still values his or her life, and his family, his friends still value him. So this is really the big question of how to live and how to prosper when you no longer have economic value, and therefore you also don't have political power.
Is it possible that one day the AI could probably have consciousness and feelings?
It's not absolutely impossible, but it is very unlikely. At present, we don't see any development of consciousness in computers. We see development of intelligence. Intelligence is the ability to solve problems. But consciousness, the ability to feel things, we don't see any such development. We don't understand what consciousness is, which is part of the reason we don't know how to program conscious computers or conscious robots. I'm not saying it's absolutely impossible, maybe it will happen, but as of today, we have no evidence and no indication that computers are on the way to developing consciousness.
Mm-hmm. But at least we can use AI to strengthen our own consciousness. I mean, maybe to understand others' minds and to communicate with others in a more precise way, and then we will probably have no misunderstanding, and we will never break up with our lovers. Is it possible?
Well, the danger is that we'll actually lose a lot of our mental abilities because we will rely more and more on the AI to do everything and to decide everything. And it's already beginning to happen. For example, with our sensory abilities. Some of the most basic abilities of a human being are the sensory abilities. The ability to listen, to smell, to taste, to feel, to touch. And in the past, you needed to have very developed sensory abilities in order to survive. Like if you're a hunter-gatherer, you go to the forest, you look for mushrooms, you try to hunt deer, you have to be careful that a lion will not come and eat you. So as you go to the forest, you have to be very attentive to what you hear, to what you smell. Any little noise, maybe that's a lion. You need to be very sharp to see the mushroom. When you find a mushroom, you put it in your mouth, and you have to be very attentive about the taste, because a small difference in taste may be the difference between a poisonous mushroom and a good mushroom. So hunter-gatherers, they were very sharp people, very attentive, very connected to their senses. Today, because of technology, we are losing all these abilities. Like you go to the supermarket to get your food. You don't need to listen, you don't need to smell, you don't need to taste or to feel. You just take the product. Sometimes you can see people in the supermarket, they go with the smartphone, and as they go in the supermarket, they continue to send messages. They are completely inattentive to the reality around them. And we have much poorer abilities today to smell and to taste and to feel than our ancestors. So there is a danger that with the development of AI, humankind will actually become far less conscious, far less capable than our ancestors instead of more. We'll just depend for everything on the computers and the robots.
Just briefly, how do you define Homo deus you mentioned in your book? How is it different from today's organ transplants or artificial limbs?
It just takes it a stage further. Today, we use medicine mainly in order to heal the sick. Yes. Like somebody has a problem or an accident, so we try to bring him back to health. Homo deus is not about healing the sick, it's about upgrading the healthy. It's about gaining abilities that we never had.
Is it possible that for Homo deus to split themselves in half? For example, I'm here talking to you, but my other hand is at home playing mahjong.
Yeah, definitely. With organic bodies, all the parts of the body need to be in the same place, connected, in order for the body to function. But once you switch to the body of a cyborg, which combines organic with inorganic parts, you can connect your brain to several hands via a computer, and they don't all have to be in the same place connected. You can sit here, and your hands are at home washing the dishes or doing whatever. The rise of these new technologies, biotechnology and so forth, they will change the most fundamental features of life.
Mm-hmm. Can Homo deus fly like Superman?
Oh, it can do something far more extraordinary than fly like Superman. It can just be in cyberspace, nowhere and everywhere all the time. Superman it still has to be in one place in one time. Yes. He's flying here, he's not there. But if you can connect your brain directly to a computer and to the internet, you can be everywhere all the time.
So, can Homo deus change its gender or sexual orientation?
The very meaning of gender and sex may change. We are used to living in a world when gender and sex are relatively stable, unchanging. You have, okay, I'm man, I'm woman, I'm gay, I'm straight, I have this one identity. But with the development of technology, you can have a very fluid sexual identity which keeps changing. We're beginning to see it today in a very small way, so you have operations to change your sex. Or for example, you are a boy, but you play a computer game and you play the role of a girl. So, but this is still very primitive, very first step. With the development of biotechnology and artificial intelligence and virtual reality, this can go much further. You can play a three-dimensional virtual reality game, and you can constantly change your sex or your gender, and you can be a man and then a woman and then some third thing. And the very idea that every person needs a fixed identity, this will become a very archaic and primitive idea.
Mm-hmm. One of the most exciting points in your book is that you say people will probably become immortal. Why and when will it happen?
Well, we need to distinguish immortal from immortal. Yes. Immortal is then when you just can't die. It's like God. Mm-hmm. No matter what happens, you can't die. This is unlikely to happen. Immortal is that the situation when you can still die, but it's not inevitable. With the right treatments and the enough technological developments, you can extend human life indefinitely. You can go every 10 years to the clinic and get new treatments and rejuvenate your body and replace your organs and so forth. And then there is no limit to how much you can live. And this will completely change human identity and society and economics, everything. Just think about, I don't know, family relations. You get married, so today you think, okay, maybe we can live together for 40 years, 50 years. People expect to live together all their life. But if you can live to be 500, then it's much more difficult to stay just in one relationship for 500 years. Or if you think about the job market. So today you enter, a newspaper, so you slowly move up as people retire or die. But if people don't retire and don't die, so there is no room for the young generation to rise up. So all kinds of unexpected results will come from the ability to extend human lifespans.
But if people could become immortal, will they still need to reproduce?
Probably reproduction and children will become far less important. And we see it already today, like in some of the most advanced societies in the world, like China and like South Korea and like Japan. Many people don't have children or have very few children. A century ago, you had families of like 8 children. And today, many people, just one child is enough. And this is likely to just go further in this direction. As people live longer, the need for children to continue my life will decrease.
I remember you also emphasized that there should be a specific economic threshold for people to become immortal or other some kind of superpower. So what does it mean?
Well, it means that many of the new treatments to extend your life, to rejuvenate your organs, will be expensive. So it will not be available for all 8 billion people in the world. If you have enough money, you can extend your life. You can upgrade your body. If you don't have enough money, you can't. So maybe humankind will split into an upper caste of superhumans who live longer and have more powerful bodies and more powerful brains, and an underclass of ordinary Homo sapiens, which is left behind.
So you mean that in that time, having more money means having more ability and more lifetime, and the immortal capitalists can use the AI technology to create wealth and control the useless class.
Yes.
But it's not so fair, is it?
History is often unfair, and this is a very big danger. And again, I'm not saying that this is a prophecy. This will definitely happen. I'm saying this is a danger. If we are afraid of this situation, if it sounds unfair and unjust, so we should start taking action today to ensure that this kind of situation will not happen.
So if a person doesn't have enough money to improve himself, he would inevitably become part of the useless class. What does it mean? What does it mean to be part of the useless class? Is it just like current homeless people living on welfare?
We are not sure exactly, but One possibility is that you don't have any job, you don't have any economic value, and therefore you don't have any political power. Maybe the government takes care of you and they give you every month some amount of money like universal basic income, and they take care of your health like basic health and give you food, but you're completely dependent on the mercy of the government and of the small elites that controls all the wealth and power.
So even in the Homo Deus era, the gap between the rich and the poor and the class conflicts will still exist and never close.
Well, it depends on our actions, but the danger is that not only the gap will persist, it will actually become far worse. Again, we can create a different world. And when we can say, no, this is very unjust, and we need to make sure that all the benefits, enormous benefits and power of the new technology is not being monopolized by a small elite, but it is being shared by all the population. So you have a lot of discussion beginning today of various models how to do it. The problem is we don't have any precedent for such a situation, and we don't have any model how to do it. So the first step is just to be aware that there is this problem, and we need to start thinking very hard what kind of new economic and political model can make sure that everybody enjoys the benefit of the new technology and not just a very small elite.
But in theory, do you think such a biological inequality will probably lead to some form of resistance and even war?
It could lead, of course. If we are not careful and there is a growing inequality, it creates tension, and this could result in social unrest, in revolts, in wars. And this is one of the main reasons that we need to take action in advance and prevent such conflicts from erupting by making sure that everybody benefits, or most people benefit, from the new technologies and not just this small upper caste.
Well, you raise the concept of dataism,
Yes.
but the fact is that there are so many leading technology companies. They have already had enormous data from their users.
Yes.
So, do you think that it's fair, and what shall we do to prevent ourselves from being controlled by these companies?
The question of who controls the data about ourselves is maybe the most important question today, because data is the most important asset. So far, most of the data about us was about what we buy, where we go, what we watch on television. And this is important, but it's not the most important. We are just about to begin a new phase in the data revolution with the invention of biometric sensors, which can collect data from inside our bodies all the time. And this will be the most important. Who controls and owns the data, the biometric data about us? This is far more important than data about our credit card or about where we go or what we watch. So it's not too late. But we need to be very aware, because there is not a lot of time. We are now at the beginning of this new revolution of biometric sensors, and people are beginning to wear sensors on their body, like in a bracelet or even inside their body. And the question is, who will own this data, which is coming from inside my body? Because whoever collects and owns enormous amounts of biometric data, they will be able to hack human beings, to decipher human beings, and therefore to manipulate and control human beings. People think that we live in the era of hacking computers, and you have all these articles and all these movies about hackers, that they hack computers. But we are really living in the era of hacking human beings. And whoever will be able to hack human beings will control the world. So this is the really important question.